Have you ever gotten to the cash register with your purchase and found out you didn't really have enough money for this merchandise? We need to count our pennies before we're embarrassed in the line there. Well, Jesus also talked about counting the cost in order to follow him. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Thursday. When telling the multitudes of his sacrificial requirement for being a follower in Luke chapter 14, Jesus said everyone needs to count the cost first. In verse 28, he said, "For which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? Lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, 'This man began to build and was not able to finish.'" You know, when one is making a choice to follow Jesus Christ with their whole life, they first need to consider the cost involved to be one of his disciples. I've seen some people in my lifetime who started out as though they would follow Jesus, but somewhere along the way, they decided that discipleship required more than they were willing to sacrifice or give. You know, I've seen some young men who answered a call to the ministry, but after maybe a few failed sermons, they turned back and gave up their calling. And I'm telling you, if all ministers today had given up after their first few botched sermons, there'd be a lot more empty pulpits than there are even today. Jesus talks about building a tower in the way that you count the cost before you ever start. He also talks about going to war against another king and without first surveying his army and determining if your army has the power to overcome the enemy. Often, Old Testament kings would consult with the prophet, ask him to inquire of the Lord before they would attack an enemy with a great army as to whether God would give them the strength to overcome. Well, Jesus is actually talking about counting the cost before becoming one of his disciples. Do we know the enemy, that is Satan, and this world out there, who we will face? Have we considered what Jesus says here in calling for us in the Christian life when it comes to being good stewards of all that he has blessed us with? Are we willing to serve in a local congregation or to show the love of Christ, perhaps even to those who are not exactly lovable? Jesus speaks of the embarrassment and the mocking for that one who does not count the cost. But he's also talking about the great loss for those who do not count the cost of forsaking all that he had to be a disciple or a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ, and the great loss that comes in eternity.